Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Interchange, brought to you by Maximyz. My name is Rahel Heineke, and I'm here with my co-host, Matthew Heineke, and we are excited because we have a great guest today that we'll be speaking to, and I'll let Matt do the introduction.
That's right. Today we'll be talking about corporate culture and diversity and inclusion, among other topics, with Don Whetro. He's the Chief Operating Officer at AR Franchising, AR Homes. He's a recognized growth specialist who's positioned several companies for profitability through effective leadership, vision, and operational know-how. He's been a driving force behind the generation of over $100 million in sales over the course of his career, and he's a dedicated husband, father, and grandfather who enjoys traveling with his family. So welcome, Don.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so whenever we start this interchange, we always start by breaking the ice. So the question I would like to ask you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you, Don?
How weird am I?
Yeah.
Probably if 10 is really weird, I'm probably up there in the 8 or so. I would say that I'm pretty weird. I think because the things that I'm passionate about or interesting about it, I don't know how many other people find those things interesting. So in a room, I'm probably the weird one.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'd say I'm probably like an 8 or 9 on the weirdness scale as well.
Yeah, we are together.
And definitely very kind of nerdy, geeky. I like Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. So you said that you might be interested in things that other people aren't. Do you mind mentioning a few of those? Or
no, I don't mind at all. I love the saying, I'm 10 toes in, right? So I'm all the way in. So if you give me anything, I don't like to do a lot of things, but the things that I do like to do, I really go really deep. And so I just know a lot of weird things about, if it's hobbies, I love good bourbon. I have 2 big green eggs, so I'm an egghead. I know all these internal temperatures and when I should wrap meats and the science behind the stall of a brisket. And I don't think anybody really cares. They just know that at the end, it usually tastes pretty good. They enjoy eating it, but all the science of it, they don't really care. So I can really nerd out on some things.
Wow. And I think, I noticed you have a degree in chemistry.
Yeah, my background is in what it was back then called biological and physical science, but really was focused in electroanalytical chemistry.
Okay.
Here I am building homes. And so the lesson is learn to learn. That's what I've told my kids. Go to college to learn. And then try to be a lifelong learner from there. And who knows where you go with that. So that whole idea of analyzing data, lots of number crunching, honestly has really paid off because I don't think numbers lie. I think they tell the truth. And if you can understand trends and data and statistics, most of your answers are really right around you if you're willing to dig in.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have a degree in mechanical engineering. So yeah, I love Excel. I love charts and graphs and numbers.
Opposite.
Always gives me trouble over that. She's like, humans are not just about numbers. There's other stuff about them too.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that though? Like coming from chemistry, how did you fall into, building homes?
How does that happen? Yeah, bad luck maybe. My wife and I were buying our first home, and we were thinking about building, and so had gone to a model home center and had seen that experience. And our realtor at the time had said to me, "You have really good people skills, and you should think about a real estate license." And like a dummy, I said, "That's a great idea." And I was working for a large pharmaceutical company that did diabetes care. And I really wanted to be in research and development. With my background, back then, especially a lot of diabetes care technology ran on electrochemistry. So I had a good skill set, but there was a major international buyout going on. They were merging some companies, and they weren't in the mood to move people around. And I was young and impetuous, and I said, if I'm not in research and development by the end of the year, then I really think I'm going to try real estate. So I wasn't, so I did. Found out general real estate is absolutely not for me. And I said, but that model home experience, I said to my wife, that was really cool. And she said, well, you should do that. And I fired off a resume, and a builder hired me. And that was how I got started in the business in a model home. And did that for a while, and then transitioned through a couple stops, kind of learning the business. And I had a couple of really fantastic mentors along the way that were nice enough to pour into me, and then ended up owning a company and being a partner in a company, and then ultimately led me to where I am today at AR Homes. So that's kind of how it happened.
So AR Homes with Arthur Rattenberg, right? Is a franchise?
Yeah, it is. It's a franchising system, franchisor of custom home builders.
Okay.
So they're not really our competitor. Epcon would be another name that might be, people might recognize in the franchising of home builder space, but they're active adult. So typically 55 plus, that's the group they serve. We serve custom home builders. And so on average, I would say we're at about $1 million average sales price plus land. And so we're serving kind of an upper tier luxury market segment. Mm-hmm. And not, I don't know of another franchisor system out there for custom home builders. So we're unchallenged in our space, and that's good and bad. Gives you a broad playground. Sometimes you have to find a lot of internal drive to push yourself because your competition's not necessarily nipping at your heels.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. You said you had a couple good mentors.
Yeah.
And, I'm just curious, how does that translate? One of the subjects we were going to talk about is corporate culture. And, it sounds like by having those good mentors, the partners who have started this had a good mindset from the beginning. So maybe just share a little bit of your experience of how that integrates with your corporate culture today.
Yeah, I would say that I had, if I look at it, probably 3 mentors. The first one, the first builder that hired me, local builder to Indianapolis, and he had a gentleman who ran his company day to day, a gentleman named Kurt Trewartha. And Kurt, I always credit him with teaching me everything that I know about sales. Now, I've learned a lot since 20 some years ago, but he gave me the foundation of selling homes and how to listen to people and how to build relationships. So that was incredibly helpful to get started in the business and understand the sales side of it. The second, my second boss, if you will, was a gentleman named Bill Fox. And I credit Bill with teaching me everything I know about construction. Now, again, it's been 20 some years, but he gave me a foundation. So at that point, unbeknownst to me, a few years into my career, I had a really solid education in both sales and marketing and construction. And it gave me a foundation to use the term I like is a holistic foundation of the business, which then I just continued to learn both sides of the business throughout my career. And so it was nice because when I sit at the table, I think I can bring broad perspective because I've done almost everything there is to do in the business. Then go back 12 years or so ago, and I met another gentleman who had nothing to do with home building, who turned out to be a mentor for me, and actually was my Bible study partner for 10 years. And it was there that I learned a lot about servant leadership. So as I share with people, as Chief Operating Officer of AR Homes, which this year, we'll do $750 million in sales. I feel like I finally worked my way to the bottom of the pyramid. So if you talk about corporate culture and leadership, take a pyramid, most people are trying to climb to the top. In my mindset, you turn it over 180 degrees and it ultimately gets down to the point. And that's kind of where I've been able to finally get to a place in my career where I have a really broad audience I get to serve every day.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
That's cool. Really good. I know last time we spoke, you had mentioned that your culture is building into people. And can you expand a little bit what you meant by that?
Sure. I always, I view home building as my widget. I could build a lot of different widgets, I think, but I think what I'm really passionate about is building organizations, because I find very intriguing, very interesting, very challenging, but more so building into people. I love to build relationships. I love to understand where people are in their life and try to meet them where they are. And I think one of the reasons I've been successful is I've had just a lot of time in my career to make a lot of mistakes. And so I've learned that nobody really cares about your successes so much, but they do enjoy hearing about your mistakes. Yeah. And the times that you've fallen on your tail end. because most of those are actually kind of funny when you look back on what happened and why it happened. And I do a lot of introspective thinking about how did I end up getting where I was. So back to the culture, there's just something fascinating about watching people grow. Helping them understand that they can be more maybe than they imagined that they could be, or maybe they've dreamed of being those things, but helping them unlock those things that help them get to the next level. And we may have talked about this, but if we can get the opportunity to build into people at AR, the hope, obviously, because I'm selfish, is they're going to be superstars for us. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, if we don't have a place for them, but they grow and they go on to do something fantastic somewhere else, that's still a win. Mm-hmm. If we believe guiding principle-wise, people first, then I'm going to invest in people regardless of the outcome, because the commitment is not the result, the commitment is the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on that one, because I know Matt and I strongly believe in that. And as a young company that we are, we always keep saying, okay, from day one, the people we hire, we are going to focus on the people. And like you said, not just because, we're going to make them great for us, even if they don't stay with us, that personal growth that a person has when they leave, it's success already, whether it's in my company or not, it's success. So yeah, that's very interesting.
I love the story of Chobani. I always bring it up. Bill's probably tired of me talking about it.
It's a good one. But
yeah, the guy who built Chobani, he took over this old kind of dairy plant and kept a lot of the people that were from before, and how he got in there and painted the walls with them, and then he even bussed in immigrants for free to come work. And so, I mean, now it's $1 billion company. So I think it's just a great testament that you can invest a lot into your people and still make a lot of money.
Yeah, both can happen, right? I think there's a much higher degree of possibility, especially in the world today, because the world's very different in the expectation of your team members. Yeah. Right. I remember as a kid and my dad saying to me, it's so funny, if you went to college, you could get into management. Mm-hmm. Right. And the idea was you could get into management, you could stay 30 years and you could get a gold watch. That was the win back then. The world is so different. The expectations are so different about the experience that people want today, the value that they want you to provide them as an employer, where it used to be, what could you do for me as the employer? I think the world is kind of reversed onto that a little bit, which the employee comes to you expecting you to provide something for them beyond a paycheck.
Yeah.
And we have a strategic thrust in our company, which is become an employer of choice, not just in the home building world. We desire to be an employer of choice. So all talent in all industries would look at us and say, it's not necessarily what I do in my career path, but there's something captivating enough about that group that I might want to be a part of it. That's hard, right? That's the BHAG, one of them for us, the big, hairy, audacious goal that you chase, but that's who we aspire to be.
Yeah. Do you think that change was there prior to the pandemic? I know it seems like right now, especially when you're talking about this great resignation, is that what it is? Yeah, the great resign, is it something new that people are just realizing now, okay, I'm going to not be here because I don't like how the company is treating me. I'm going to go for something better. Was it there before, or it's just now?
No, I think it was there before. That's my belief. It was there before. I think the pandemic accelerated it. Mm-hmm. I think it accelerated a number of things. So if you look at home building, there are a number of things that we as home builders, couple years ago, President Moen Fawcett's was in our office, and he said, construction is a frozen industry. Home building is a frozen industry, meaning home builders don't like change. We're probably one of the most adverse groups to change. Mm-hmm. And so all these things that we talked about that people believed could happen in housing, but nobody ever got around to it. When the pandemic occurred and people realized I can't be face-to-face anymore, but I still need to sell homes, I still need to build homes, there was revolutionary change within the industry. So I could now get on Zoom and you could be anywhere in the world and my architectural staff could meet with you and design a home virtually, which was unheard of. People didn't believe that people could buy homes virtually, that it had to be conducted face-to-face. We were wrong, clearly, right? Because the world went on to prove that that's actually not the case at all. So I think that was there. And then another interesting tale is I was at International Builder Show in Las Vegas about 3 years ago, I suppose. And the builder of the year, the custom builder of the year, had his staff up there talking, and they were all younger. You know, I'll be 50 this coming year. They looked like they were in their early 30s, and they were talking about how, hey, look, if I put in my 50 hours a week and I'm done by Thursday afternoon, I want to be gone on Thursday afternoon and Friday. And I was with a couple of people. I said, that's crazy talk. This is construction. This is home building. You can't do that. You have to be available. Yeah, well, I was wrong there too. Right? Because the world said, no, you can be remote and you can work anywhere. And so I think that it was there. I think the demand was there. Nobody believed it largely. Some real progressive companies believed it, but as a whole, I don't think people believed it. And then we proved it to ourselves that it worked. And so I think that they wanted it. They just nobody really gave them the foothold to force employers to change.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. So do you think with that, companies are now more willing to give employees or let employees take more risk, like, you know, be more creative, kind of manage their own times? And is it something that's coming? Like, do you see like 2 years, 5 years down the line, this is where we're going to be?
That's a great question. I would like to think so. You know, I would like to think, because I think the other piece that people are really hungry for is empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, a little bit of control of their own life, a little bit of control of their own destiny, being able to have that flexibility. But I also think that goes into, you know, I think they want to be trusted more. They want, I know the younger folks team members that we have, they're hungry for some autonomy, I think is the word I want to use. They are hungry for autonomy. They want to know, here's what I'm expected to do. And then, as I like to say, I want to give them room to create some of their own strategy and then give them room to execute on it. So there's enough breathing room there for them to learn and fail a little bit, because I think without failure, no one grows without failure. And I think that's the piece they're hungry for. And I think corporate America has been very rote in that here's what you do and here's how you do it. And I think there's a lot of creativity out in the world. And I think they want be able to express some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there might be a faster way to do it, or a better way, or less expensive or less risky way to do it. So why stop somebody from coming up with that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the steal from Ford, right? He said, if I asked the customer if I asked the customers what they want, they would have said faster horses. Right?
Yeah.
He was interested in building automobiles. And so I love that saying, because I want some people who are thinking about building the automobiles of home building, if you will.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Our leadership team, we know we're not the smartest guys and gals in the room. Somebody in our group, though, is smarter than us. And we have to give them the venue to bubble those ideas up. If we shut that down, it goes underground. They'll chit chat on Zoom or at the water cooler.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop them from thinking that way.
Mm-hmm.
If they're young leaders, they're going to think like young leaders. So I better give them the mechanism by which to express themselves and be heard, or they're not going to be around. Or I'm going to have an underground revolt that I don't know about in my company. Both are bad.
Yeah. So does that go in line with one of your sayings that, again, you had mentioned earlier when we spoke, when you said in your culture, you believe in meeting people where they are. So does that apply not just to customers, even to your employees?
Has to. It absolutely has to. We have to understand, I think good leaders value results in relationships. And I think everybody has a bias. And I don't know where my bias lies, because I think I'm a relationship guy. I hope I am. I think that's really important. But as you know, my background's electroanalytical chemistry, so I like numbers and results. So the ideal person is right in the middle. They can value both equally. I'm sure I don't, but I think the good leader recognizes that he needs to know his people, her people, right? Whoever you're entrusted to lead. I think about leadership as a stewardship, super valuable asset for a company, the team. They're entrusted to me. And so the surest way for them to thrive is to try to get to know as many of them as I can, understand what's going on in their lives personally, what their goals are, what their dreams are, where we're not meeting them. try to get as aligned as I can. Can't always get there, right? Because it's business and I'm in business to be in business. But ideally, I'd like to get as close as I can to alignment about where they want to go and where we want to go. But that'll never happen without relationship. Can't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And so, earlier you mentioned that you want to be kind of like one of the workplaces of choice, regardless of industry, and talking about, meeting people where they are. What types of things are you doing? What types of activities or, plans or programs are you doing to get there?
So, well, lots of them. The table stakes is comp, right? So everybody wants to be compensated fairly in the market. So I assume that a great employer compensates fairly. So I will assume that's there. I'll give you a great example. I think employee recognition is really important. And so I'm going to give away a little bit of our secret sauce. Not long ago, we came up with a program. It's a Hall of Heroes, League of Villains program. And so once a month, we peers nominate somebody who's kind of made a heroic lift in the company. They've done something really fantastic. I talk about second mile service, right? First mile service, it's level of service everybody gets. Second mile service is the unexpected. I want to deliver second mile service all the time. So when somebody achieves that, whether with their internal customer, their teammates, or our customer, the franchisee, or potentially our customer's customer, which would be the home buyer, we want to recognize that. So what happens is they get a really cool Zoom background, they get a certificate. We had bobbleheads made. And so Jim Rosewater, our CEO, we have a bobblehead of Jim in kind of a superhero outfit. I like to call him Approving Jim. So we're really happy with what happened, right?
Yeah.
But we also have the League of Villains. And so every once in a while we make a total goof. And we want to recognize the total goof as well. And let's make fun of it a little bit. Let's laugh about it. Let's learn from it. And so with that, you get a really cool Zoom background, but it's like thunderbolts or explosions.
That's cool. I like it.
It is. And there's another bobblehead, and I like to call him Disapproving Jim. Uh-huh. And so those are in rotation for our people. So you get to put that on your desk. And I think it's a really cool icebreaker when you get on a Zoom and there's this background and people are normally seeing the AR logo. But instead you have, kind of the bat signal, or you have lightning bolts and explosions. And we get to talk about part of our culture, which is we celebrate the wins and we learn. I love the saying, and my team hears it all the time, we don't fail. We succeed or we learn. Those are the only two outcomes I'm willing to accept. So we'll succeed, or we're going to learn something and we're going to be a little bit better the next time.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, I love the celebrating your losses as well. I think I saw something on LinkedIn a while ago. It was a young couple, and a man and a woman, and the wife was they're eating ice cream and they're happy, and they said, "Oh, we're celebrating that I flunked my biology test in college today."
Yeah.
And so I thought, yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't want anyone in the team to think everybody has it all together.
Yeah.
Because none of us actually do. Whether that's raising kids or marriage or work, none of us have it all together. And so I think there's only one kind of leader in the world, and that's the leader that makes mistakes. There is no other leader I know of, right? Because we're all human. And so I think it's okay. And I think it shows authenticity when we give the team insight into what happened. And then what's even more beneficial is, can we take that and then apply one of our 5 guiding principles to that? And we have a little leadership nugget that here's what we did and here's what happened and here's where it aligned or where it failed to align with our values. And I think nothing speaks more to the team than when the leader's willing to say, yep, screwed that up, and here's how I missed it. And so that's a little bit of culture, right, that we're building. And then it goes into things like team empowerment. Clarity, I think, is a big one. Mm-hmm. I think if you want to be an employer of choice, one of the things you can do is cast really good vision. I like to call it sticky vision. I want to get something on your fingers. You can't shake it off. It's compelling enough that you're thinking about this, and then give people clarity around that, about what their role in achieving that vision is. What's the win look like? How do they go there? Because it's one thing to hear about where companies want to go, but if you don't understand your role in it, how you contribute, how you get there, hard to find meaning in your time, right? So that's again employer of choice, because I'd like to think lots of companies think that way, but I talk to and interview enough people that I know a lot of companies don't.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I worked in corporate America for over 20 years, and definitely there were many times I didn't feel that psychological safety type of atmosphere, you know, where I was free to speak my mind, or, you know, or to make a mistake. You know, if you made a mistake, they just made you look bad in front of everybody. So, all right, I'm not gonna talk about my mistakes ever again, because which is really dumb at the end of the day, because you're right. How do you learn from them? How do we resolve them? If management isn't aware that these things are going on, then they'll just keep perpetuating themselves.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'd like to point back to what you had said about the kind of leader that you are, you know, that you get to know your people in these relationships. But the interesting thing that I kind of wanted to ask you was, okay, your company has grown a lot. You mentioned it's grown a lot, and you have a lot of employees under your belt. How do you manage to know everyone, you know?
Yeah. Here's the word for you. It's called intentionality.
Yes.
I'm really intentional about being a high touch leader. And I always like to draw this distinction, and people probably think I'm into semantics, and I'm really not. I like to think I'm an engaged leader, but I'm not an involved leader. So I'm engaged with you. I want to know about you. I want to learn about you, but I don't want to be in your daily business. I don't want to be in down, because I'm trying to empower you. I want you to do your work. I want you to have freedom to do your work and express yourself that way. But I want to be really engaged and understand who you are. So intentionality is my word. We believe in skip levels. So we meet with employees on the team who are, if I have 11 directs, which I do, then I try to meet with people below them on the org chart without the manager's involvement. So it's just a great opportunity. And it's not the opportunity, and we're really clear about this, if there's an egregious situation in the company, I would hope they would bring it to me, but it's not for them to give us the down low on their manager. It's not the purpose of it. It's really to get to know what is their level of engagement in the grand scheme with the company, what's going on with their family. I have a couple young associates who've reached out to me because we do a weekly town hall. But on that weekly town hall, we talk about leadership development and other things. And so probably for me, nothing more humbling than to have a young team member or associate who reaches out and says, wow, listen to you on the town hall. Could I get your reading list? What are you reading? And so I don't know how many people in our company will watch this, but I'm going to give away a little secret. What I often do when someone like that, when one of the team members reaches out, is I give them my library for the last year and let them pick a book, and then I send them a copy. But with the agreement that we will do a book report, and that book report can be weekly. It could be at the end. But I want to know what they learned from it and how they're going to take that and apply it to their life, and not necessarily their life in AR. I want to know. Often they contact me because they want to be a better husband, better wife, better father, better employee. And so the question is, so here's a book that was inspirational or meaningful to me. What did it mean to you, and what are you going to do about it? Because if you just read the book or we just talk and they don't take action, then nothing will change for them. And so I really think I have a bias for action, and I want them to also.
Wow, Don, you're really inspiring. You're really inspiring. I really hope there are more CEOs out there like you. But yes, I like everything you're saying. Like it really feels like you are definitely looking at that upside down triangle, and definitely we need to be like him.
No, I know a lot of commonalities in the way we think. Because,
absolutely.
It's only us right now, but as we hire employees, one thing I thought that I would like to implement is something similar to what you have. I want them to spend at least an hour or more a week on their own personal growth, and they can do anything. Watch a video, read a book, just meditate, whatever it is to help them improve the way they think, improve their mindset, and then come back and report, to us on what they learned. Yeah, so I think that's a great idea. I love it.
Yeah, thanks. I think people, what's the saying? You'll find my dad was full of sayings. He's been gone for about 4 or 5 years now. My dad was full of sayings, and I think it's genetic. And so I have a lot of sayings, and none of them are mine. I don't think. I don't know that I created any of them, but I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so Kevin Elko, he says, over a long period of time, it's going to happen all of a sudden, and I love that because everybody, people who meet me go, well, he's the chief operating officer of AR Homes. Well, I didn't just fall here. Right. It took a long time. All of a sudden it looks like it, but over a long time. And there are a lot of times, and I try to share this with some of our younger team members, or even those people who are figuring out, what am I doing in my career? That I feel like I toiled in obscurity for a long time, listening to podcasts and reading books, thinking, wow, if I ever get the chance, right? If I ever get the chance to lead people, this is what I'll do. I'll do it different. I'll do it different than what I've seen or what I've been exposed to. And that was always my thinking. And obviously it just took a long time for the timing to be right for me to have that opportunity. But I think there's a message in there that, I think back to when my daughter tore her ACL going into her 9th grade year, and she's a basketball player. We read the book, Chop Wood, Carry Water Together, Josh Metcalf. It's a great little book. Love that one. All about process. And so for Madison, it's like, Madison, it's the process. Every day to rehab, chop wood, keep doing the process. She had a great surgeon. We were lucky. She had a great rehab team. And so what takes most kids months to recover from, she recovered and was back on a varsity basketball court in 91 days.
Wow.
It's unheard of for an ACL reconstruction.
Yeah.
But she's driven and she was willing to chop wood, right? That was our saying when she was growing up. We just keep chopping wood. We keep working the process. Yes. And that's leadership a lot of days, is you just keep working the process.
Yeah. No, I agree. Eventually it pays off. And even if it doesn't, you still enjoy the ride.
I'm personally better for it, right? The investment I made in myself, I'm personally better for it had I never gotten the opportunity to lead a major organization. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, you'll be able to apply it in other areas of your life, like you said, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, not to switch up on you a little bit. I know we've been talking about culture, so I want to take a little bit of light and talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I know last year, we all went through a lot of changes, turmoils, or misunderstandings and whatnot. How has this whole movement affected your industry, your business, and your culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on the industry at large, it's hard for me to really say. I think as a company, we've always we've had a focus on diversity, and it wasn't driven by the pandemic. We talked recently with our group about how people get their mind right in the mornings. This is kind of an interesting topic. Mitzi Hattori, our vice president of marketing, led the conversation about some of the things that she does herself to get ready every day, and shared that some things that she does with her team to help them get their mind right every day. And what we talked about was they felt it was a really safe environment. That was what her team's response to that on a town hall was. We felt like this was a really safe space for us to say, this is a really tough day for me. I'm having a struggle. We talk about, the meeting people where they are. That's not even on the grand scale. That's on a daily basis. Matt, I need to give you some feedback today. And it's probably not good feedback. How are you feeling? What's going on in your life right now? That's unheard of, I think, in the past. If I had bad feedback for you, I gave you bad feedback, irrelevant of how you were feeling in that day. So that, in part of it, is we realize people are working from home at a dining room table, probably with little kids running around. They never signed up for this. Okay, so now the world has put them in a really awkward spot, a really tough spot. Mm-hmm. And we have to be sensitive to those things. Beyond that, we just think diversity makes the world spin. That we need a variety of backgrounds and experiences and cultures at the table if we're going to be a company that thrives into the future, because I think that's where the world is going. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We work in an industry, unfortunately, it's very tough because it's not largely, there isn't a lot of diversity necessarily in the world of home building.
Okay.
It's in sales and marketing side of it, sure, probably so, but in the construction side of it and in the executive side of it, I don't necessarily feel like there's a lot of diversity, and so it's something we really think about right now. I'm also a believer that we really want to put the absolute best people in the organization, right? We want to hire absolutely the best people. And so for us, we try to look beyond any of we don't have any preconceived notions about race or color, any of those things. I don't think we view it as, we don't really care where you come from. We want somebody who fits us culturally and is the A player for the team. And we talk about that. Our board of directors, as that's expanded a little bit, diversity was really important. So ensuring we get the right mix of folks at the table to lead our company. I think if it all looks the same, it's all going to sound the same, it's all going to get the same result at the end of the day. No chance of reaching the broader audience, which is something we, again, aspire to do. So
yeah. Now you mentioned that diversity in the building industry, just generally, you don't see a lot of minorities in, I suppose. So, and you're trying to hire the best regardless of where they come from and whatnot. But how do you go through that hiring process? Because then the pool of where you're selecting already is limited. So how do you go beyond that?
Yeah, great question. Try to look outside the industry. The answer is to go outside the industry. Now, if it's a construction-oriented role, I'm working from a pool of people who have a skill set, right? But the interesting thing about our business, it's not just a home building company. Now, again, we're a franchisor, but if you think about it, we have marketing, we have an IT department. We still develop a lot of our own software. We write our own code, which is good because we have obviously a finance department. Those are really transportable skills. So I don't. If Rick were on the call, I always joke, right? He counts the beans. If you're a great if you're great in finance, if you're a great controller, it doesn't really matter where you come from. So I can expand the pool pretty dramatically for those kinds of things. Anything that involves technology. Here's a real eye opener. We, just due to home building demand, we run a team of 14 people offshore in Mumbai, India. It's pretty exciting for Revit modelers. Technologically speaking, there's just a really big pool of people in India who know how to operate Revit and AutoCAD. And so for our group, that's a lot of diversity. So you bring in 14 people who are Indian. And now our architecture staff is dealing with them. I talk to them on not a very frequent basis. It's a real eye opener. And I think what's one of the takeaways, I talked to the owner of the firm, and I asked him what's going on with COVID in India. It's a real concern there. It's rampant, and we do some offshore code development for our IT department, and that group, unrelated, decimated by COVID. So they work in these big cities, in these high rises that have excellent facilities and internet, but when they go home to their village, they have almost none of those resources available to them, which is crazy to think about because we view America as internet is everywhere. It's free at McDonald's or Starbucks, right? And here, these families and their culture is different because when someone gets sick in their family, they might go away for a month. They might return to their village to care for them and be with them for a month. So now we're getting exposed to this group of folks in India, and we're dealing with them virtually, but their circumstances nonetheless are very impactful to our business.
Yeah.
Right. And so now we're learning how to deal with these people, these folks overseas, and how to be respectful of their culture, respectful of the way they work, even their communication style.
Yeah.
So I think it's solvable. We have to accept that there are a huge pool of people with different experiences that are outside of our business who absolutely could thrive here. Now, the question is, do you want to be intentional and go get them? There's my word again. You want to be intentional and go get them and be a little bit of a risk taker and say, okay, this person wasn't a controller at a national public home building company. They were a controller in another industry, but darn, they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go get them. And that's how I think diversity occurs in construction. That's that would be a take on it from my seat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No, it's some interesting ideas. I like that. And it sounds like AR Homes, the culture there, it does a lot of the same things that we teach in our program. Actually, there's psychological safety, there's the emotional intelligence, like the story you talked about. Hey, what kind of, how are you today? Is now a good time to give you feedback? So that's kind of the emotional intelligence part of it. You talk about communication styles and culture and bias. So yeah, that's really cool. That's really great. It's nice to hear that you're putting all those things. Communication has all these aspects, and they work together with each other to create teams and great companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Work hard. I want to create our own language. I think there's power. I think there's power in language.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I want to. It's huge. It won't happen tomorrow, but sort of this AR Homes vernacular. There's a way we want to talk about where we're going, what we believe. I talk to the team on a regular about, internal narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Not only what are we saying, but what are we saying to ourselves, right? What internal message do we share with ourselves on a regular basis about how we're doing as a person? The ideas that we have intrinsic value, that our performance is not, our value is not determined by the number of plans we turn out or the number of homes we sell. The world would like to measure you that way, but there's a reality that we have an intrinsic value in my mind, that people have intrinsic value. And is that your internal narrative? That I do have value, that I am good enough, that regardless of how today went, I'm a good enough person.
Mm-hmm.
And to give them a winning mindset, right? Take all the mental clutter and junk out of your mind and focus on the idea that I am good enough, I am a contributor, I am valuable. I think that's important in how people talk to themselves. And so we want to create that internal language at AR about how we not only treat others, but treat ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think your title should be Chief Motivational Officer.
There you go.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. My wife will tell you she says I'm full of it. I always think it's good ideas, but I think she thinks it's something else. So
well, you always need some people to bring it back to earth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess the one of the things I want to ask is, what's a question that we haven't asked today that you feel like we should have asked, and what would your answer be to that?
That is a great question. What have we not touched on? I don't know. What's on my bourbon shelf right now?
Perfect.
Here's a question I like to ask people that you haven't asked me. What's in your library? Give me the last couple titles you read, or the last couple podcasts you listened to. I always think it's interesting to know.
Yes.
So if I were to answer my own question, my current read right now is a book by Sanghi. It's called The Fifth Discipline. It's an older read. It's about systems thinking. And it talks about learning organizations and how they develop and where they ultimately get to this place. If you do it right, if you're dedicated to it, you can get to a place of systems thinking, where you have this broader ability to connect all your dots. It's the breaking down of silos, and that's kind of a cliche term in my mind now. But there are a lot of moving parts in every business. The world is way more complicated than it used to be, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that ability to see our entire thing. And so we're a franchisor. What's interesting is you start with manufacturing, building Trane air conditioners. So they're trying to get raw materials from somewhere in the world. They just want to build those basic things. The subcontractor, he wants to acquire that Trane air conditioner and go put it in for our builder, who's trying to get the subcontractor to perform. And here we are as a franchisor, kind of sitting on the outside, trying to influence that entire series of events to the best of our ability. And so the question is, can we get far enough, zoom out far enough to look at it from a systems standpoint and connect the dots in order to hopefully gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So, that's a book that I've been on, and then I'll throw one more at you since we're on the topic. When I don't know what to read next, and that's rare, Excellence Wins by Horst Schulze, who was the past CEO of the Ritz-Carlton. He brought the brand to America, and Excellence Wins. I think he was one of the few two-time winners of the Malcolm Baldrige Award for excellence. He has a really high bar for excellence, and I am inspired by listening to him and reading his works, because I think it's a bar that we want to get to. And he's done it. I mean, anybody who knows anything about the Ritz-Carlton knows that during his time before he founded Capella, a premier hotel brand in the world, probably. And there's a lot of
everybody knows the Ritz.
Yeah, you were up about your book. You were saying something. I'm sorry.
Oh,
about the book.
Oh, the book.
Did you finish talking about what you were saying? Okay, cool. Just making sure.
I think so.
So just to finish our conversation, we want to ask for what advice would you give for business leaders who are right now having a difficult time navigating just this new terrain? What advice would you like to share with them now?
That's another great question. I think what's helped us, from my perspective, what's helped us is our core values, our core deliverables as a company didn't change. Okay, the way we delivered them did, and I think that's an important distinction. So we were really open to change because the world forced us. So it was open to change, but we know what works for us as a company. And I think in light of all of this whirlwind that we've been living through now for a couple of years, I think change is important, but I don't think anybody should get away from their core process or core business offering that works for them. And I think that's where we as a company stayed the course, and we just kind of worked the process, right? And so that's what I would say to them. If you're struggling right now, remember who you are, right? As a person in a company, remember the core things that got you to your previous success. Be open-minded about changing how you deliver those core things that got you to success, and then just work the process and work the process and work the process.
Yeah. Chop the wood.
It is. You got to keep chopping. You got to chop wood, and I think it's too easy to chase something else. There's so much going on in the world. It's easier to run off and go, no, I'm going to do this thing instead. I don't know that that's the right approach. I think you've got to stick to your core thing that got you to where you were, and be dedicated to it, and just keep working the process, and then surround yourself with some good people, because it's hard.
Yeah.
And not just the team, right? But find a couple people that you can give, as I like to say, all access pass to your leadership. A couple of people that you're willing to put all the ugly stuff out there for them, probably outside your business, and just, wow, there it is. And they're not going to judge you, and they're gonna pick you up, because I spend a lot of time picking up other people, and so we all need someone to come alongside, pick us up, and dust us off. Encourage us. I need it too, and then get us back in the game. So those are things I would hold on to, and have faith it ends at some point, right? Have faith we get through it.
That's right. So I'm calling you.
Yeah.
You now know where to find me, so you call me anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Well, thank you so much, Don.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I look forward to keeping in touch with you too. See where this all goes.
Yes, absolutely. We enjoyed. So we want to thank our listeners for listening today at the Interchange, brought to you by Maximyz. This was Don Whetro. We totally had an awesome conversation. So we thank you again, Don.
Yeah, thank you again, Don Whetro, Chief Operating Officer for AR Homes and AR Franchises, and also the Chief Motivational Officer.
Yes.
I'll have my business cards changed. I'll send you one.
Yes, do that.
All right. Take care, guys.
Awesome. Thank you,
so
Don.
much, Don. That was great. Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate your time.